What is up, everyone? As A lot has gone on this week. A lot has gone on this week. And there was a lot that I wanted to talk about, but I can't. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start this off by talking about how the other day, while I was at work, I was sweeping out the parking lot. Every single time I sweep up the parking lot, it's always weird to me what like people leave behind. Like somebody left a fitted cap, and that confuses me. Like imagine going into a place with a hat on and like then it just falls off your head and you just never think to say, let me go ahead and get my hat. Like I don't know. It's like the only thing I could think of is maybe the hat was in someone's vehicle or something and it fell out the vehicle and it didn't know, because the hat wouldn't just fall off your head and you would just ignore it. You would have to be like angry and be like, that tears it. You know, but that's not what got me. What got me was a Twix. I was sweeping up the parking lot the other day, and somebody left a Twix on the ground. And upon further inspection, which I didn't really like, I didn't pick up the Twix or nothing. It was just that like I swept it. The thing was barely open, and if you feel with the broom, there's like three left in the Twix. So somebody just bought a Twix, ate one Twix, and was like, nah, I don't want this. I guess that's just a metaphor to how wasteful somebody can be. It's just like, you didn't even bother to just keep it at home just in case you felt like getting a Twix later. You just ate one Twix and threw the rest on the ground and just kept going. And that's weird. Like it's wasteful, but also it's weird. It's a weird, wasteful thing to do. You know what I mean? Like I can understand if you ate all the Twix and just littered, but you only ate one. What's up with what is up with that? Um, Moving along though, I just want to go ahead and take this time to point out real quick. Anybody who knows me personally knows I actually don't mind comedy. I do kind of, I don't really want to laugh as much as I want to be able to be like, oh, that's a different way to do it. That's a different way to talk about this thing. Because comedy is essentially what makes complicated stuff, much more direct. One of the big reasons why I started like focusing a lot more in the like what's going on in the news was because I started paying attention to the comedy news segments, the comedy like the Daily Show and the Late Show and the Tonight Show and things like that, because they will take actual events that was going on that people would have to talk about, and made it so that it was like, people would be like, oh, those jokes are corny, they're not even funny, but it's like, but you understand what they're saying now, you understand what the thing was about, like, basically it was just a way to kind of like bring attention to something that people wouldn't bring attention to because they didn't know a whole lot about it, or they didn't know what to refer it to. Like if I were to tell you, the former state attorney general decided to the former state attorney general had went on a record and basically said that there was absolutely no accounts of election fraud, and if there were, it came from a place of it came from a place of not disillusionment, but it was misinformation. If I told you that, you'd probably be like, what is he talking about? But if I told you the president's lawyer snitched on him, the president's lawyer basically snitched on him and told him, hey, bro, you lying. Which one makes more sense? Like that's what I like to listen to when I talk about comedy and stuff like that. Because I always tell people I don't like to laugh, but that's only because I don't like to laugh at dumb things. Like today's jokes. One of the big reasons why I like stand up comedy is because like you have to actually pay attention to what is being said, because there's rarely anything being shown unless they have like some sort of PowerPoint presentation or some visual that you have to pay attention to. But most of the times you have to, like, if you were blind and you went to a stand-up comedy place, you would know what's going on because of what they're saying, and you have to focus on what they're saying. You can't really ignore what they're saying. You can't be, unless they, like I say, they make themselves a visual spectacle. But a lot of times when you actually do listen to stand up comedy and things like that, is mostly to kind of bring attention to something that, yeah. But the problem is that, like, in this day and age, though, people be like, like, people. I'm not gonna say people, but like most comedy that I encounter now, or most attempts at comedy I encounter, is almost always something. It's almost always like something. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's almost mockery. It's either mockery, or it's people just sort of making fun of somebody else because of stuff like, hey, LOL, this person looks weird, or LOL, something bad happened to somebody. It's almost always mockery and schadenfreude, and it's almost never to the people who should be getting mocked. That's another thing that stresses me out too. Like, it's like we have, in America, we have white supremacists. You know what I mean? We have like lazy rich people. We have actual terrible people. So why is it that most jokes nowadays are basically to, transgender people, or LGBTQ people, or black people, or things like that? It's like we basically have the best material right here. We have actual racists who do and say stupid things all the time, and I there's rarely ever any humor being thrown at them. Like, I go on my Facebook wall, and there's never like any jokes dedicated to, like Marjorie Taylor Greene said that there was space lasers made by Jewish people that started the wildfire in California. And granted, that got a few chuckles back then, but that should be a thing that should stay now. That should be a thing that people should still be able to rip on her for. And yet, people are too busy talking about the slap at the Oscars, which I still believe was fake. You know? I just don't get that. Like, one of the few things I liked about old school cartoons was that, like, for all of the stupidity and the absurdity and wackiness and the off-branded, off-color humor, every so often you see them make fun of, like, Warren Harding and the Ohio gang and stuff. It was very rare. Like, it was like one of the few reasons why I actually kind of dig South Park a little bit is because, for all of its right wingedness that it kind of has a little bit, it does tend to make everybody into a punchline. Sometimes it'll like do, and it always kind of does a weird little I learned something today thing. It takes it parodies that, and basically just sort of, and sometimes it hits the nail right on the head with some of these issues that we will look back and think, oh, that's satire, that's parody, that's jokes of jokes. Like, I'm actually rewatching South Park right now. I honestly cannot tell you why. I wasn't a huge fan of it back in the day, but it's there, and it's there, and I'm bored. I have been rewatching a lot of old shows too. One of my favorite episode right now is Awesome because up until then, granted, Cartman kind of does get, Cartman does get his licks. You know what I'm saying? Cartman does do dumb things and get in trouble for it. But the Awesome episode was basically, because he rarely ever gets humiliated. And you rarely ever get him see, like, completely humiliated. And it's like, that was the one. And Butters was the one that did it. The comedy, though. But yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. I like the idea that, like, my favorite type of comedy is the comedy that you can listen to. And, like, I like to learn from comedy a little bit. Because, like, people be like, oh, no, you got to be offensive. You got to be edgy. You got to hurt someone nowadays. You got to insult someone. You got to mock someone. And it's like, fine. Mock Republicans. I mean, they're there. These people want to make being poor illegal and make incest legal. It's like, if there was any group of people in the world in America that you could probably make fun of right now, it's the people that want to impregnate their own daughters. That's definitely gonna give me an above 18 version. But instead they're too busy saying, we have to make fun of just regular people. We got to make fun of people who look a certain way. We got to make fun of them. It's just annoying to me because, like, George Carlin once did a segment on words, George Carlin just like he did a whole humorous bit on words, like words going from being simple to being hyper complicated. So like back in the day it was shell shock, and now it's post traumatic stress disorder. You know, back in the day it was back in the day somebody was homeless. Nowadays they are financially destitute. You know, and stuff like that, jokes like that works today because even now we're giving something simple more more syllables. We're slowly starting to pin the closer we're getting to trying to pinpoint the issue, the more words we add to it. You notice that? You know, it used to be that just somebody was crazy. Now it's mentally disabled. You know. And George Carlin, who is considerably one of the legends of comedy, so to speak, legends of like better comedy, and to say that, and George Carlin was also fairly an edgy comic himself, but he went after the church, you know what I mean, which was surprising. I mean, who goes out like nowadays? I don't even think people really like go after. People don't really go after things that are actively harming people. They just want to be the people that harm people, and I find that bizarre. I find that weird. And that's kind of one of the big reasons why I kind of avoid a lot of comedy nowadays, because the last thing I want, like, make fun of Republicans, please. Make fun of white supremacists, please. Make fun of people who abuse people, please. Make fun of bullies, make fun of those guys. Target them, make them feel uncomfortable. It's already bad. Like, we live in a world right now where there are men out there who pleasure themselves to the idea of the woman form, that are currently being upset because She-Hulk twerked. The same guys who will literally watch any other woman twerk in any other context, and while holding their phone with one hand and holding something else with another hand, are mad that She-Hulk did it. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's a joke in itself. Why we should be making more fun of those guys? Because if you're going to appreciate the female form, why are you complaining about this? I'm just saying, it's just like, there's a lot that goes into it that I feel like people just, there's a lot that goes into comedy nowadays. The jokes basically write themselves, and the problem is that nobody is telling the jokes. You got all these mean people out here just thinking that what they're doing is okay because nobody is mocking them for being mean and obnoxious. Meanwhile, people who ain't even doing anything are getting targeted because of how they look. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. Y'all take it easy. Love, peace, and safety, and happiness to all of y'all. And we out. Love and peace.